80% of all the climatic requirements for the plants.
Mhm.
Whereas other greenhouses might only manage about 20%, and then the other 80% has to be done with, air conditioning units and fans and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the dome is completely different. It's the opposite.
Sure.
The plastic material that we have is a special agricultural material, and that's we import that from Germany.
From
And
Germany.
Yeah.
Germany or France? Germany. Okay.
This is patent material from Germany.
Okay.
And this material allows 83% of sunlight to go through.
Okay.
Okay.
80%. Okay.
80, yeah.
Okay.
So the UV, but it diffuses 83% of the UV. So
Mhm.
so we could be standing here, it could be 23 degrees, but the UV might be high. It might be about 7 or 8.
Mhm.
And if it goes through, the UV is what burns the plants. Okay,
Mhm.
so because it gets diffused after it penetrates the skin, it means that the UV scatters. That means we can bring the plants up close to the edge without the plants being burned, which is very important, because if you look at the other greenhouses, the other rectangular greenhouses, they use glass panels. They have trouble in the UV penetrations go straight through.
Okay.
Okay.
And what is the paper that its name of that paper? Is it a special
The
name?
plastic.
Yeah, plastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Germany, they have very good names like Polyketa. That's what it is. It's just called Polyketa. Right.
Polygator.
Okay.
Okay.
Not a very good attractive name, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a functional name.
Yeah. Yeah.
So poly is obviously the plastic, and
Mm-hmm.
Keter basically means the beating around.
Okay.
Um, but we get them in rolls. We actually fabricate them in Australia ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
so we actually have to cut and then weld the plastic to shape. Right.
Sure.
So, but the plastic materials is very strong. It can take up to 160-kilometre winds.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've noticed, but when you were driving in,
Yeah.
the university had the other greenhouses on the other side.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
one of them was already torn on the side. They had a big hole.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
with their plastics. This doesn't happen with ours.
Mm-hmm.
So, our plastic, our previous plastic, which was there, we
Yeah.
had in Wangara, which is on the Central Coast.
Yeah.
That got damaged during the move, not
Mm-hmm.
because of any wind or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It got damaged during and so we had to get that replaced.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So. We replaced it. We put the plants in there, and then that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So, because the shape and the inside, you have what we call laminar flow.
Mm-hmm.
So laminar flow is how the air circulates. It
Okay.
follows around the curves.
Sure.
If you have rectangular shapes, it follows flat panels,
Sure.
and then it hits a corner, and then it gets chaotic.
Mm.
So that disrupts the natural airflow, and that's why you need air. You need fans to drive the air through,
Sure.
because otherwise it doesn't flow very easily.
Sure.
Whereas in a dome, there are no corners, so therefore it flows all the way around. Temperature builds up on one side of the dome because of the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're talking about heat, we're not talking about the outside heat. We're talking about UV.
Sure.
So UV is high energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, and then it hits the steel frame
Mm-hmm.
because it diffuses. So it's still got to go somewhere. So it goes into the steel frame. The steel
Okay.
frame is like a heat sink, builds up the heat on one side, and then it excites the air. So the air around it gets very warm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because we have the dome shape, the air when it builds up heat on one side gets pushed around to the cooler side.
Mm-hmm.
So the hotter you get, the more circulation you get naturally inside
Sure.
the dome.
Is it a natural? It's you have
It's
some.
completely natural.
Okay.
Right, it's completely natural. That's
Okay.
why, because heat, so heat wants to diffuse.
Sure, I
Right?
will
So
just
heat
show
wants
them.
to get around and spread itself around.
Sure.
Okay. So same in a house, you run the heater or the air conditioning, and then what happens is that it diffuses.
Yeah.
But there is a rate at which it diffuses.
Sure.
So you can't diffuse very easily, very long distance. Okay, because the air can't move that fast.
Sure.
The difference is with the dome, it does.
Hmm.
Okay, so the dome moves very efficiently, and then as hot air builds up,
Yeah.
it goes up the top and goes out like a chimney.
Okay.
So that's why when we turned up,
Yeah.
the misting system was on because the vents were closed,
Yeah.
and so therefore there was no way for the heat to escape.
Sure.
All right,
Sure.
so we wanted to keep that because we wanted to keep the high humidity.
Sure.
So the main thing that we want is we want high humidity, and we want to manage the temperature.
Mhm.
Now the temperatures can be managed within the dome, but it's the humidity that we need to try and preserve,
Sure.
because that's tropical plants is what they really want.
Sure.
So the dome is quite